I want to turn to our next guest. He's Marshall Front. He's the chairman of Front Barnett Associates. And by the way, he owns shares in both Citigroup and also Bank of America. Marshall, great to have you with us. And Marshall, and I want to be clear, of course, it's your firm that owns the shares in both of those banks. Let's take Citi first, because as you just saw from Suzanne, there's going to be a lot of activity there. Is your firm planning on taking any shares off the table after this?
Oh, no, I don't think we would be sellers of the stock at this point, although it could work its way a little bit lower. Our investment in Citicorp is really predicated on what we think the earning power of the bank will be in a couple of years. And we're thinking in terms of 60 or 70 cents a share after this dilution, which would provide, if the bank sold at 9 or 10 times earnings, a very substantial return from current prices. But the uncertainties over the near term clearly overshadow what the longer and intermediate term prospects are.
Yeah, the uncertainties for sure, because Citigroup pricing this at a deep discount. You've got to wonder then, what is Pandit's future?
I think it's questionable. I think there have been a number of misexecutions really over the last few years. This is just the last in a series of these. This seems to have been rushed to the market, unnecessarily so in our view, and the shareholders are going to pay for it, at least over the short term.
And Marshall, then, what is your view on the government involvement in all of this? How much do you believe the government is to blame for some of the mess that we're seeing at Citi?
It's a very complex situation, and we will only know later on how the negotiations played out, whether the government forced them to delay their offering until after Bank of America and Wells Fargo made their offerings. That's part of the equation. There's an awful lot of issuance of bank shares in the last 2 or 3 weeks. We'll know more about that later on, but in the long run, they are well to get out of the grasp of the TARP, get out of the hands of the government, and be able to execute their game plan without microscopic examination.
Right, but Marshall,
and that's the key.
Well, that's why we've seen such a rush then. I mean, in your analysis of Citi, but also the other banks, are they strong enough, or were they strong enough to repay TARP?
The answer to that question is yes. I don't think the government would have let them out unless, in their judgment, they were able to sustain themselves in the kind of economic environment we're likely to be in.
Okay, Marshall, good to talk with you. Thanks so much, Marshall Front of Front Barnett Associates.